The movie begins on a calm evening. Jay is playing with his two daughters, Polly and Molly, while his wife Jessie gently reminds them it's bedtime. As Jessie heads to the kitchen for a drink, we see a masked figure silently watching her from outside the house. Jay calls out for Jessie but gets no response. Moments later, he finds her lying on the floor, brutally stabbed, with one of their daughters crying beside her. Then, a scream echoes from upstairs. Jay rushes to help his other daughter, but the masked man ambushes him, striking his head and knocking him out. Jay wakes up in a dimly lit room, chained to the wall alongside three strangers, Adam, Paul and Kat. Paul's body is horrifying, stitched mouth, scars everywhere. It's clear something truly evil is going on. Jay screams, desperate to know where his wife and daughters are, but the others assure him he doesn't want them, he only wants you. Yet none of them know who he is or why he's doing this. Meanwhile, in a separate location, we meet Dominic, a scared little boy also imprisoned by a deranged man named Rick. Rick force-feeds him raw meat and pours blood on his body. When Dominic begs to go home, Rick tells him, "Your parents abandoned you. I'm your father now." One day, during lunch, Rick stabs a fork into Dominic's leg for showing discomfort and forces him to apologize. Rick is mentally unstable and manipulative, yet slowly, Dominic begins to believe him. After briefly escaping, Dominic remembers Rick's words, "No one is looking for you," and heartbreakingly chooses to return, feeling like Rick is all he has left. Back in the torture room, the lights flicker, it's feeding time. The masked captor tosses in a chunk of raw meat. Adam and Kat fight over it like starving animals. Jay is disgusted. He tries to dig an escape tunnel in the wall, but breaks his fingernail in the process. Kat tells him, "There's only one way out, the main door. Good luck with that." Meanwhile, Rick tries to mold Dominic into a monster, burning his own hand with a horseshoe to match Dominic's scar, then giving him a knife to cut away the innocents. Shockingly, Dominic obeys. Back in the prison room, Jay finds a hidden camera and tries to talk to the killer, but the others warn him not to. The masked man arrives, dragging Paul into the center of the room. He hands Kat a knife and orders her to slice Paul's flesh, and she complies. The killer then demands Jay do the same, but Jay stabs him instead. The punishment is brutal. Jay is beaten, and Kat is forced to eat a cockroach placed in her mouth by Adam. Jay tries to escape again by cutting his restraints with a razor he finds, but Adam warns him, "Paul tried that, look what happened to him." Jay doesn't listen. The killer catches him again, this time nailing his hands to the wall. Later, the captor gives Adam an axe and forces him to attack Jay, who blacks out again. When Jay regains consciousness, he's badly wounded. Paul, struggling to speak, draws a horseshoe shape in the sand, hinting at something important. Adam confirms, he saw a burn mark on the killer's hand, in the shape of a horseshoe. Jay begins piecing things together. The cockroach, the spider, the worms, he's seen these people before. But where? The story flashes back to when the now imprisoned group were just kids spending their summer break in the countryside. That's where they first met, and unknowingly shaped the monster who would one day return for revenge. Sitting around a campfire in the forest, Jay told them a terrifying local legend. After the death of his wife, a butcher named Rick went insane. He started wearing a mask made of pig skin, the same pigs he used to slaughter. Then, he locked his own son in an old shack, force-fed him raw meat, and eventually boiled him alive and skinned him. Since then, locals believed Rick still wandered the woods, hunting for his next victim. Parents even warned their children to never go near his shack. After Jay's story, a boy named Dominic appeared, hoping to join the group. But instead of welcoming him, the kids put him through brutal initiation tests. They forced him to eat a cockroach, let a spider crawl into his ear, and pinned him to the ground while dumping worms on his face. Jay tried to stop it, but the others laughed and walked away, leaving Dominic humiliated, and still rejected. Later, Kat approached Dominic to make up for it, luring him toward Rick's shack. Waiting inside were the same bullies who gave him one final dare: enter the killer's shack. If he didn't run, he could join their group. But once Dominic stepped inside, Rick grabbed him and slammed the door shut. The kids panicked and ran, leaving Dominic to face the nightmare alone. Back in the present, Jay makes a chilling realization: Dominic, he's the masked killer. He brought us here to punish us. We then see how Dominic grew up under Rick's abuse. Rick told him lies, saying his parents abandoned him. But after a violent confrontation, Dominic broke into Rick's private room. There, he found newspaper clippings proving his parents had been looking for him, until they were murdered. Boiled alive. Skinned. By Rick. Dominic snapped. He killed Rick, boiled him alive just like he did to others, skinned him, and turned that skin into his signature mask. Now fully grown, Dominic returned for revenge. Jay convinces the group to apologize, hoping to end the madness. But Dominic isn't interested in forgiveness. He reenacts their old torments, stuffing spiders in Kat's ear just like she did to him. He hoses them down with pig blood. He even forces Kat to shove a worm into Adam's eye socket. Jay tries to help Adam, but ends up accidentally ripping his entire eye out.
Amid the chaos, Dominic drops his knife.
Jay grabs it and frees himself and the others, but Adam, now desperate and half-blind, fights Jay for the knife. Jay, trying to defend himself, stabs Adam in the face, killing him. Kat picks up the knife, but before she can act, Dominic returns. He confronts them, broken and emotional, blaming them for turning his life into a nightmare.
Jay apologizes.
Dominic starts to cry, his rage briefly replaced by vulnerability. But Jay uses the moment to stab him in the back. A second stab hits Kat, killing her instantly. Jay runs from the room, trying to escape the nightmare once and for all. But Dominic isn't dead. The two face off in a brutal final fight, punches, slashes, screams. In the end, Jay stabs Dominic repeatedly, this time fatally, and escapes. Police arrive. Jay is finally safe. He reunites with his wife and daughters, 10 years after the nightmare began. But the story doesn't end there. A decade later, Jay's daughters, Polly and Molly, are on a camping trip with friends in the same forest. One of them whispers, they never found Dominic's body. Suddenly, a rustle.
A shadow. A scream.
Dominic is back. If you enjoyed this intense horror recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a twisted tale. Got thoughts on Dominic's revenge? Drop them in the comments below, we're dying to hear what you think. And that was The Dare, 2019. A grim and unsettling journey into the consequences of childhood cruelty and repressed trauma. It's not your typical horror flick. This film doesn't rely on cheap jump scares, but instead, digs deep into the psychology of revenge, guilt, and what happens when the line between victim and villain completely disappears. Directed by Giles Alderson, and featuring chilling performances from Richard Brake and Bart Edwards, The Dare offers a brutal look at how far a damaged soul can go when all innocence is stripped away. The flashbacks, the torture sequences, the transformation of Dominic, all combine to create a story that is disturbing, raw, and thought-provoking. While some viewers might find the violence excessive, others will appreciate the deeper commentary on childhood trauma and the cycle of abuse. It's a film that doesn't offer clean resolutions, only consequences. If you're into psychological horror with a moral twist, this one is worth the watch, but definitely not for the faint-hearted. Thanks for watching today's breakdown on Quick Recap. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more dark and thrilling film reviews. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe think twice before daring anyone into an abandoned shack in the woods.